2015 by the Royal Courts of Justice in Strand, London. Everything you're about to hear is included in that judgment. According to this judgment, as of March 10, 2015, more than 4 million people worldwide have viewed online material relating to this case. This is what they had to say about those people. It is inevitable that a large portion of those have a sexual interest in children. Any rational adult who uploads film clips to YouTube featuring children speaking about sexual activity must be assumed to realize that fact. This means that according to the Royal Courts of Justice, I'm a pedophile and so are you. Our mere interest in the children's well-being must be sexual. It goes on to state, all of the signs are that those responsible for posting material derive a great deal of personal satisfaction from attracting interest to their spiteful work from many thousands of people. It goes on to detail the allegations made against the accused abusers, followed by, and this is a quote, I am able to state with complete conviction that none of the allegations are true. I am entirely certain that everything Miss Draper, her partner Abraham Christie, and the children said about those matters was fabricated. The claims are baseless. Those who have sought to perpetuate them are evil and or foolish. All the indications are that, over a period of some weeks last summer, the children were forced by Mr. Christie and Miss Draper, working in partnership, to provide coerced accounts of horrific events. These stories came as the result of relentless emotional and psychological pressure, as well as significant physical abuse. Torture is a strong word, but it is the most accurate way to describe what was done to the children by Mr. Christie in collaboration with Miss Draper. After all this bashing, aimed in the direction of our community, the mother and her boyfriend, it goes on to detail the relationship of Ella Draper, the mother, and Ricky Dearman, the father. They met in 2003, and by 2006 their relationship had disintegrated. After this, domestic violence allegations started against Ricky. For years they had issues which resulted in an injunction being placed against Ricky, rendering him unable to make contact with the children. The details around this are, of course, left out of the judgment. On the 4th of June, 2014, there was a scene in the playground at Christchurch School when Mr. Christie, Ella's new partner who she had been seeing since October 2013, was picking up the children at the end of the school day and became loud and aggressive, accusing the teachers of poisoning the children by giving them food supplied at the school. It goes on to detail facts about the videos being made and the investigation, all of which leaves nothing out until it gets to the examinations. It says, quote, on 12 September, both children were examined by Dr. Hodes, a consultant community pediatrician at both the Royal Free Hospital and University College London Hospital. On 16th September, Dr. Hodes performed a second examination of both children. These lines are some of the only ones that lack details. They leave out what we had been told previously, that the children were indeed abused sexually, and it was proven via scar tissue on both children. The judgment from this point changes directions and states, on February 9th, my clerk notified the parties, by email, that there would be a hearing the following day. Miss Draper failed to attend court on the 10th of February when mandatory and prohibitory injunctions were placed against her. She only had a one-day notice via email, and because she couldn't make it, injunctions were placed against her and she could no longer see her children. The oral evidence began on February 17th. At 8:51 that day, my clerk received an email from Miss Draper in which she asked permission for her Mackenzie friend, Belinda Mackenzie, to represent her and her parents' interests in court. Miss Draper stated that she had been prevented from being present in the court. It goes on to say, "It seemed to me that there was no proper role for Mackenzie, and she was denied entry into the court." The next paragraph states, "Abraham Christie was outside the front entrance of the building on the 17th of February as part of a group campaigning for the return of the whistleblower kids to their Russian family. A witness summons was issued requiring his attendance to answer questions on Friday, February 20th, and attempts to serve that summons were unsuccessful." That's pretty crazy to me that they were unsuccessful, considering he was on record as standing right outside the front entrance of the building. A lot of details seem to indicate that they didn't really try at all. I mean, it's right here on record, he was standing right outside the front door. The judgment goes on to state that they believed the mother's absence was because of a telephone conversation an investigator had with her on the 12th about the material that was released on the internet, to which she responded it was nothing to do with me, and that she did not wish to speak to him and did not trust the police. The same day, officers went to her address. The judgment states her car was in the driveway and that her lawyer spoke to them through the mail slot on the door. The officers were there to discuss possible offenses committed under Section 4 of the Harassment Act of 1997. The man denied entry, to which they responded by attempting to secure forced entry, meaning they literally wanted to kick her door down and arrest her on the 12th, 5 days before the proceeding, showing that they already had plans to keep her from attending. It's right here in the judgment, in plain text. It goes on to state that while they were waiting for their warrant, that 3 people climbed out a window, ran across the roofs of 3 or 4 houses, and escaped right in front of these officers, who apparently just stood there. It really sounds to me like a crock of lies, but that's my personal take on this insane judgment. This is when people started stating that she fled the country, and rumors started, and the courts fed off this to paint her as a criminal in the story. But Ella herself stated after this that she was afraid to return because she wouldn't be able to fight for the children, and according to this judgment, she was absolutely right. But directly after this, the judgment states, "There is no substance in the assertion that the mother has been prevented from participating at this hearing. If she had been arrested on February 12th in connection with the harassment allegations, the overwhelmingly likelihood is that she would have been released on bail, enabling her to come to court on February 17th. If she had remained in custody, I would have been in contact with the police and prison authorities so as to make appropriate arrangements for Miss Draper's attendance in court." This is absolutely false, and the substance fills the several paragraphs directly before this one. It was clear their intentions were to prosecute and scare the mother. It goes on to state that in an open letter to Theresa May, the Home Secretary, that Ella then made an, quote, offer not to expose this scandal in exchange for returning the children. After everything that's happened, she was desperate to get her children back and willing to stop trying to expose the scandal. It goes on to only have one paragraph on Ricky Dearman, which quotes him stating, quote, "There are 2 sides to the story. I'm not perfect. I'm a decent guy and a good father." Of the mother, he said this, quote, "When Ella is not doing crazy stuff, she is a really beautiful person." But wait, we know that the children were abused by either the father's side or the mother's side. And with the judgments pointing fingers at Ella, the mother, this is what he has to say. She's a beautiful person when she's not doing this crazy stuff. Crazy stuff being abusing the children? What a load of crap. It's just absolute bullshit. It goes on to state that the judge has to go by evidence, or lack of, and talks about the lack of evidence, overlooking the fact that the doctor confirmed abuse which is evidence that the children were abused. It then goes on to describe the videos that were originally leaked, stating that there are only 16 short clips and 3 are copies. This is untrue. There were at least 20 videos, all of which I still have. Skipping over the descriptions of the videos, we come to, quote, if, in fact, the children had touched the dog and were touching each other, to believe that children who demonstrate curiosity about and touch their own, the dog's, and their siblings' genital areas must have or probably have been sexually abused is plainly ridiculous. It either shows alarming ignorance about normal children's behavior, or, as it is much more likely here, willful determination to distort innocent activities into something sinister and depraved. So it's nothing here, but just a few lines down, and it details the scarring, finally, on the children's anuses and other areas. So what is the point of the previous paragraph and everything else? It's absolutely ridiculous itself. Let's examine some quotes from that. Quote, Dr. Hodes identified 3 linear scars extending almost to the anal verge, as well as anal laxity after 10 seconds of gentle buttock traction. Dr. Hodes identified 1 anal fissure scar, which is an anal rip or tear, and no reflex anal dilation. In relation to both children, Dr. Hodes concluded that there were physical signs which supported the children's allegations of physical and sexual abuse. So again, what was the point of calling these activities innocent? These quotes clearly contradict the judgment's claims that it's all innocent. This is what the judgment stated about that. And the doctor, quote, overall, I feel impelled to observe the level of Dr. Hodes' involvement in this case was unusual. It goes on to hound the doctor, stating, I regret that Dr. Hodes was not asked exactly what she hoped to gain by the second examination positioning the children differently. The entire judgment goes against every reasonable argument, and the judgment had to have known this. It goes on to conclude that neither child has been sexually abused by any of the following: Ricky Dearman, teachers at Christ Church Primary School, Hampstead, the parents of students at that school, the priest at the adjacent church, teachers at any of the Hampstead or Highgate schools, members of the Metropolitan Police, social workers employed by the London Borough of Camden, officers of CAPCAS, or anyone else mentioned by Miss Draper or Mr. Christie. All of the material by Miss Draper, now published on the internet, is nothing other than utter nonsense, and that the impact of the internet campaign is likely to have the most devastating consequences on the children. I mean, forget that they were actually sexually abused. This campaign to help them is going to have the most devastating consequences, surely. That's what the judgment states. So, in conclusion, the children were abused, but the judgment is more interested in protecting the accused than outing whoever abused the children. The judgment overlooks very real medical evidence that the children were in fact abused, and goes as far as to call people like me and you the real pedophiles, strictly for our interest in their welfare. It is clear to me, in my personal conclusion, that the judgment is trash, designed to protect the very real cult that exists. Very real child abuse is ongoing, and they think that they've won. The truth is they have not won, and it is up to us to do something about it. What that something is, I'm not sure, but at this point it is in our hands.